Hello, welcome back, or welcome for the first time to my channel if you've never been here before. My name is Bryn, I'm transgender and non-binary, and I make videos about those topics. So if you haven't seen my videos before, you probably didn't notice this. But if you have watched my videos, you can probably tell that the background is new. I moved in the beginning of August, and this is my new home. This room specifically is actually for the kids, but I kind of really liked the brick wall behind me, so it's actually kind of cool. This is the stairs here, so the wall is actually a little bit further back. But I decided to film up here today. I do have a few other spots that I'll probably try filming just until I get the hang of it. I have a ring light, which means I can kind of do it anywhere and still get the same lighting that I need. So I'm going to be testing out a few different places. If you see a background that you like, feel free to put it down in the comments. I will obviously take your opinion into consideration because, of course, I like to look at what I'm filming and enjoy it, but I also want to make sure that my viewers enjoy what they're looking at. So if you like this background, feel free to comment down below, or if you like a background that I do in the future, also feel free to comment on that. So I know it's been a little while. Obviously, like I just said, I moved. Things have been pretty hectic. I had to wait for a ring light to come in because I didn't have one. My old place had nice natural lighting that I didn't need a ring light, but the way that my house is set up now, it's like there's lighting, but it doesn't reflect well on me, so I had to get a ring light. So I do apologize for basically not doing anything for a month, but I am back and ready for business. I'm ready to film, ready to go, ready to talk to you. I have really missed sitting down and making videos. Today I wanted to touch on a topic that I've definitely talked about before. I believe I talked about it maybe in my label video, probably my hormone update video. Honestly, I don't remember. But this would be me resonating with the term trans androgynous. And I wanted to talk about not just that term, but I wanted to talk about the terms of trans masculine and trans feminine, and not just why those don't sit right with me, but why in general they can actually be a little bit problematic, and I don't know, just go into a lot of different things about, I guess, terminology of identities. So without further ado, let's get into it. So if you have not seen my videos before, a little bit of background information about me. I was assigned a male at birth and I was raised as a boy. I eventually came out as a trans woman, didn't feel right, and eventually came out as non-binary. And I have been medically transitioning for 5 years now, meaning I take estrogen and I take a testosterone blocker. To really get started with this video, you know, I think, I was assuming you're non-binary and watching my video because most of my viewers are. I would imagine that we can agree that gender is not binary, because the term non-binary literally means not binary. And when we talk about the binary system within gender, we're talking about men versus women, male versus female, boy versus girl. Those like the two categories that everyone can fit into, or that people try to fit everybody into, and that we're conditioned to believe exist when really like do that, you know. Or that they are at least the only two entities that exist, because as we know, that is not true. But I think what some people don't realize, or I don't know if it's that they don't realize or what, but something that I have noticed that I'm sure other trans and non-binary people have picked up on, but this is a very common thing, are the terms trans masculine and trans feminine. And trans masculine is typically a term that is granted to people who were assigned female at birth and are either non-binary or a trans man. Trans feminine is a term that is granted to people who were assigned male at birth and either a trans woman or non-binary. And the reason that the terms themselves aren't bad, but the fact that they automatically get linked to your assigned sex at birth or assigned gender at birth, however you want to say it, to me feels a bit problematic, because it feels almost like the same thing as, you know, saying, okay, you have a baby born with certain genitals, okay, so you're automatically a boy or you're automatically a girl. For someone to come out and say, you know, I don't identify with the gender that I was identified at birth, people automatically leap to the opposite assumption. And that's not necessarily true. There are people who are assigned female at birth who still consider themselves to be feminine or may consider themselves to be androgynous, but they're lumped in this trans-masculine category because they were assigned female at birth and they're trans. And it kind of almost takes away their identity because they're not even really getting to choose who they are. They're still getting pushed into this category automatically simply because of their assigned sex at birth. And I consider that to be problematic. You know, I don't think in general, if I had a friend who was like, yeah, I'm trans masculine or I'm trans feminine, like, that's not a problem. The problem is the assumption that based off of your assigned sex at birth and the fact that you don't identify with that gender then means that you are completely removed from everything on that side of the spectrum and just thrown into the other side, because that's not accurate. And there's a lot of trans people who consider themselves to be trans, consider themselves to be non-binary, you know, whatever, but don't go all the way on the other side. And we're still looking at gender as this two-category system or whatever. Even if it's not, yeah, we're not saying men and women, we're acknowledging that there's people who, you know, there's a bigger spectrum, but we're still doing this where there's the masculine side and the feminine side. And I don't like that, basically. And I especially didn't like it for me. The term trans feminine never sat right with me because when I picture feminine people, especially in like an average society, I don't picture it doesn't sit right with me. And like when other non-binary people who were assigned male at birth consider themselves trans feminine, I don't feel like, oh yeah, like, yeah, me too. Like, it's just, they feel just as foreign to me as someone who would be like a trans man, because it just, I don't consider my like core or my soul or whatever you want to call it to be feminine. On top of that, the terms also kind of give away your assigned sex at birth, which I have a video on why I don't really like to disclose that to people, at least now. You know, it might change in the future, but I really don't like, especially people who don't really know me, you know, my friends, whatever, people I'm dating, you know, like, it's fine, but I don't really like, oh, this is my friend that you've never met before, but also they know that you were assigned male at birth. And so if you're gonna lump that trans feminine label on me, that is the assumption that goes along with it. It almost outs me, and I don't like that at all. And not only that, but I don't feel connected to the term feminine, so like, I don't like it. The only time that I consider the term feminine to be appropriately used on me is when it refers to medically transitioning, because on paper my transition looks basically identical to people who are trans feminine, and I would say that medically I'm trans feminine, I guess, and that doesn't bother me, but in general with identity related things, doesn't sit right with me. On top of that, I think I've talked about this before, probably in my like, I don't tell people my assigned sex at birth or whatever, but like, if people know my assigned gender at birth, or people assume that I'm trans feminine, you know, either way, they'll make comments on me, or comments to me to specifically validate my femininity, which again, I'm not connected to. I don't feel connected to femininity. Like, I know I have feminine aspects. I know, like, I know that, and that's fine with me, but like, for someone to specifically be complimenting me to help validate how I feel about being feminine when I'm not even feminine, it's just frustrating. The term trans androgynous, I mean, I say I came up with it myself. I'm sure there's other people that use it out there, so like, I don't want to be like taking all the credit, but I don't think I had heard of it before I started calling myself this. And I do actually want to make a video about basically how I winged my transition the entire way, because I couldn't find people who looked like me and had the same experience as me, so I kind of just built my own path. And one of those things is the term trans androgynous, and the term androgynous is meant to erase the term trans feminine or trans masculine, because it doesn't give away my assigned sex at birth. It doesn't put any assumptions on me that don't feel like me. It feels more accurate, and it feels like me, I guess, is the best way I know how to explain it. A while ago, this was over a year ago, it was like a while ago, I remember I used to view androgyny as this like very narrow middle point on the male-female line, or masculine-feminine line, however you want to look at it, the binary line, and the androgyny is right in the middle. And at some point, this image popped into my head that like the androgyny doesn't have to even be on that line, it can be like up here. And so then I was like, oh, and then I started like feeling so much more free, because I felt very limited and how I could dress and act and this and that, or else I was going to be considered too masculine or too feminine. But now that I kind of see androgyny as its own point, I can kind of venture out from it and still not feel like I'm entering feminine territory or masculine territory, I guess is the best way to put it. And I really like that. And I know that's not necessarily an accurate description of everybody who is non-binary. Not everyone who is non-binary wants to be androgynous, and not everyone who is non-binary views their gender as a third gender, or a gender completely separated from male and female, or masculine and feminine. But for myself, that is how I feel, and that is how I identify, and that is what makes the most sense to me. I consider myself at my core, in my soul, my spirit, whatever, to be androgynous, but I do have feminine aspects. There's the fact, obviously, that I'm on HRT. I am on a medication that diminishes my testosterone and raises my estrogen levels. That is going to make my body appear more feminine. I have a chest. I have softer skin. I have a more feminine hairline. You know, I'm wearing earrings. There's so many things that would probably be labeled as feminine from the outside, and that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. I don't really count it as misgendering when somebody genders me as she or her, even though that's not like if someone said, what are your pronouns? I'm not going to say she or her, but I feel comfortable being gendered as that by strangers. It's usually the he and the him that kind of get me like, like, please don't. But, but I still consider myself overall to be androgynous. And I mean, if you look at some of my other videos, I'll have my hair down, or I'll have makeup, or well, I guess I have earrings here, but I'll look maybe more stereotypically feminine. And for me, this is something that I'm working through, so maybe I'll make another video like later on about it. But I'll look at myself and I'll be like, wow, I look so pretty, or so nice, or so whatever. And I can kind of like channel that energy, but it does kind of feel almost like I'm playing a character, like if I'm an actor in a show. I used to actually take acting classes when I was little, and it feels like I'm doing a really good job at acting like a pretty girl, basically. And I mean, I don't have a problem with that sometimes, because it is fun to dress up, but I've noticed this a lot, especially within like the past year or so, because I've been trying to make a mental note of it, that like, even when I feel like, I'll feel really confident dressed more femininely. Like, I'll be like, oh, I'm so pretty, I'm so attractive, I'm this and that, this and that. As soon as I tie my hair back in a bun and put a hat on, I instantly feel like me. And so it's like those feminine aspects are good, or they make me feel good, but they don't make me feel like I'm at home, I guess maybe is like the right way to put it. Like, I don't feel, I couldn't do it all the time, you know? and I feel confident because I look good. I feel confident because I look cute or adorable or whatever. But I still feel like I'm kind of giving off the wrong image of who I am, if that makes sense. Even though I have feminine traits and I can kind of venture off into femininity, I don't really hold femininity close to my heart, I guess might be a better way to say it. I don't know. And then there's the idea, which I'm curious on what all of you say, and I think like I'll probably have mixed opinions and stuff. But most of the time when I hear the term androgyny, it is used as a descriptor for how people dress, or how they look or appear or act or whatever, you know, like a girl with short hair and a face that doesn't look super feminine and she's wearing, you know, maybe baggy clothing, you know, she'll be considered androgynous or whatever. Like, there's obviously so many different, like, examples of that. But androgyny seems to always be something, from what I've seen, that is used as a descriptor rather than as an identity. But for me, it feels like my identity. It feels like a part of me. And that's why or a big part of the reason why I prefer the term trans androgynous, because just as someone who is trans masculine would say that they feel masculine and being masculine is a big part of their identity, or someone who's trans feminine and feminine is a big part of their identity, you know, androgyny is a big part of my identity. I enjoy looking in the middle. I enjoy people looking at me and being like, they look like they could be a boy or a girl. I can't tell if they're like a really effeminate man or a really kind of like androgynous or butch woman, depending like how I'm dressing. Like, I like when I have that ambiguity, and that goes deeper than just this external, like, oh, it looks cool to be androgynous. Like, that is, androgyny is something that feels like a part of my soul and a part of my heart or my whatever. Like, it's a part of me, and then I express that on the outside, just as any trans feminine person would express femininity on the outside, or trans masculine person would express masculinity on the outside. It's the same idea for me, but I feel like androgyny isn't taken as seriously maybe as an actual identity, rather than like the way you dress or a thing that you do, rather than a thing that you are. But I'm hoping to maybe change that narrative, or at least for myself, I feel like I've changed the narrative. And I know I've gotten comments from a lot of you saying that you really like the term trans androgynous, which is awesome, because I felt like I was maybe the only one. I think there's a lot of pros to it, and it fits me. It fits me in every way. So that's my whole long spiel about why the term trans androgynous is my baby, but is perfect for me. But yeah, if you like the term, or if there's other terms like other than trans androgynous, trans masc, and trans femme that you feel connected to, that I didn't mention, or you know, maybe it's something you came up with on your own, or something that you don't hear a lot, feel free to leave it down below, because I'm always interested in learning about new terms, and who knows, maybe I'll like it and I'll steal it. No, but maybe I'll use it for myself, or whatever. So I'm always interested in what all of you have to say. I do appreciate you listening. I appreciate you all being patient from me moving and not making videos and all that kind of stuff. So I hope you all have a wonderful day.